goes to probate and all this stuff. And it's like, oh my, imagine, right?
Yeah, you don't ever want to go to probate.
I know. You didn't have the betting, right? Yeah, it's like, turns out to be like a 6-month process here and everything. But it's like, well, what if he was involved with all these accounts and betting? And certainly it's another great discussion to have with Palm, too, about what happens. But this was, and DraftKings agreed and said it was the right thing to do, although they could, they were stand to lose $386,000 if the Celtics would have the repeat.
That's right. I can't imagine how often this happens, too, when people don't have like a trust or they've done nothing to get it in fine print. The amount of bickering and like lawsuits that happen when somebody who's worth if you're worth a ton of money, I hope that you did that anyway. Mm-hmm. But it's like, hey, wait a second here. I deserve this. I deserve that. I should get this big of a chunk. I should get that much. And then it doesn't, like, there's no succession plan whatsoever. So then what? Who does it belong to? If you didn't take care of all that stuff before you passed away.
It's like Knives Out. He left everything to the, what was it, the housekeeper, whatever she was?
Yeah. Oh, what a great movie.
Awesome movie.
Uh-huh. Yep. So fascinating there.
I got a death book.
He calls
that's good.
Oh, mamma mia. Up next, best bets in soccer. Steve Wist, the Meat Man, joins the program. It's Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
And we're out.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on Western Reserve Radio. I'm John Thayer. In the NCAA women's basketball tournament that was announced yesterday, Ohio State is the 4 seed in the field in one of the quadrants. Ohio State will take on 13-seeded Montana State in round number 1. That first round matchup between the two is set for Friday afternoon. The winner will advance to take on either Tennessee or South Florida. On the NASCAR Cup Series yesterday, it was Josh Berry who raced to the checkered flag first in Las Vegas. Daniel Suarez was second. Ryan Preece came in third. William Byron and Ross Chastain rounded out the top 5 in Vegas. Bundle auto and home renters or condo and save with Progressive. I'm John Thayer with the Sports Flash, presented by Progressive on Western Reserve Radio.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
At Skechers, we put the S in comfort. Now, I know you're probably spelling comfort in your head and asking yourself, is that possible? Am I just a really bad speller? Look, I don't know your spelling aptitude, but Skechers most definitely put the S in comfort because Skechers is the comfort technology company that has developed fits and features that change everything you know about comfort, like hands-free Skechers slip-ins, the ultimate in comfort and convenience. It's footwear you just step into and they're on with no bending down. Find Skechers at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
The stations that always keep you in the zone.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Western Reserve Radio, Western Reserve Radio 2, and City View Sportscast, Youngstown, Ohio.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on Western Reserve Radio. I'm John Thayer. Columbus Blue Jackets are back in action tonight. They'll take on the New Jersey Devils. The Blue Jackets entered the matchup having dropped 3 in a row, while the Devils are coming off of a loss that snapped a win streak. Spring training baseball yesterday, the Reds fell to the Mariners 8-3. The Guardians fell to the Brewers 8-2. The Guardians and the Reds are set to play tonight in Goodyear, Arizona. Both teams are 9-13 in the spring training. The Cleveland Cavaliers fell short yesterday against the Orlando Magic, 108-103 in the loss for the Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell had 23 points, while Jarrett Allen added a double-double, 20 points, 12 rebounds. Cavaliers with the loss dropped to 56-11 on the season. I'm John Thayer with the Sports Flash, presented by Progressive on Western Reserve Radio.
Is that a new Samsung Galaxy A15 5G?
Yeah, I got it for free when I joined Cricket Nation.
Sounds pretty great.
At Cricket, anyone can get a new phone when they switch.
Whoa.
With a high-quality camera, meaning more flattering selfies for all. And super fast 5G, so you can post them for all to see. Your friends, your family, your apps. Free phone! Free phone!
Okay, I'll switch.
Welcome to Cricket Nation.
Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. Must bring your number to Cricket on a $60 a month voice plan. First month service charge and tax to its sale. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Progressive knows you've got enough to worry about in life.
Hi, it's your life again. Feel like another year is just slipping away. Yeah, remember all those New Year's resolutions you made? You still haven't finished the first book. Just 19 more to go. I mean, if we're being honest, it wasn't a very realistic goal. Have you ever considered that you intentionally self-sabotage? So what's that about?
So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Hello, Phantom fans, and welcome to Season 7, Episode 26 of the Dump and Chase podcast. My name is Sam Olmstead, and joining me as always is Dan Conley and Justin Irwin. Well, gentlemen, this weekend played out exactly the way we thought it would. The only problem was we had the teams mixed up. We were going to be in a nail-biter with Waterloo and then blow the doors off Chicago. Turned out it was the opposite.
I would have rather been more on the mark than not like that. Those 2 games against Chicago, I mean, I was entertained.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah. I think the heart rate monitor there on my watch went up a little bit more than I had really anticipated.
So right away, Phantoms alumni news. It just, although this one, I think this was, I think this was one of the easier predicted ones.
Yeah.
Of all of them. So this past week, we got the news that Phantoms legend Jacob Fowler signed his entry-level contract with the Montreal Canadiens. He will be reporting to Laval Rocket for the remainder of this season out in the AHL on an amateur tryout contract, which is what we've already seen with Chase Patilla and Trey Taylor. I mean, Justin especially, and it was only a few years ago when you really think about it. We got this kid who's an undrafted, USHL affiliate. A few years later, he's a pro hockey player.
I mean, I don't want to say we've never seen this before, but I don't think we've seen this before.
And I will say, if you remember back, it wasn't the interview, but it was the conversation we had before the interview at main camp a couple years ago, talking to Jacob's dad, Jay. And he had told us about how, Jacob had gone undrafted and had a few options for main camps. And he said he had a conversation with somebody. One of the options was Youngstown. And he had a conversation with somebody that basically told him, you want him in Youngstown, compared to the other 2. I can't even remember who they are now. The other 2 options that he had. Well done there.
I want to thank whoever it was.
Whoever that guy is, well done. So something we haven't done in a while, we're going to do a little bit of a shout out here. A very long time listener of the show, somebody we just got to meet for the first time this past weekend, Cullen Chadwick. I guess finally was brave enough to come and seek us out down in what has become the insane asylum at the bottom of Section 222.
Yeah, you got to be kind of adventurous to come down into that house.
Longtime listener, Justin, like you said, he was, when you were doing the blog way back in the day. Yeah. longtime listener of the show, finally came and found us there on the game on Sunday. Had some really nice things to say about us in the show. Was much appreciated. So we thought, what the heck? We'll give Colin a shout out for braving the lower depths of 222 on Sunday.
Sam, you said insane asylum. I just pictured in my head, don't know why. Just Justin holding 2 forks up to his head, and you have car jumper cables hooked to him, just going crazy down there.
I think that was season 2 or 3.
Yeah. I keep forgetting there's these times on the show before Dan and after. We're just going to BD and AD from now on, before Dan and after Dan.
There you go.
All right. So, coming down to the very last week of the regular season, and something, and I am fairly certain this is correct when I was told this, the first time the Phantoms have been in first place in the Eastern Conference this late in the season. You'd have to go back to the 15-16 season, I believe.
Yeah.
This is new territory for us, for certain. But the playoff pick, I mean, at this point, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. Youngstown 2 games with the U17s this weekend. Win both of those games, 1 seed, first round bye. It's that easy. Still a log jam at the top. Hopefully Youngstown takes care of business, and then the rest of these guys can just beat the tar out of each other, figuring out where they're going to end up in the grand scheme of things. But currently, Youngstown, first place in the Eastern Conference with 82 points. Madison and Dubuque tied with 81 points. Madison, virtue of the row number, has the tiebreaker there. So Madison in second place. And then you have Madison and Dubuque playing this weekend. I imagine there's going to be some scoreboard watching going on there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, regardless, yes, but like you said, we just have to win both of these games. I mean, at that point, nothing anybody else does matters. We control our own destiny.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Madison finishing out the season on the road at Dubuque, and then back home to finish out the season with a game against Green Bay. Dubuque in third place, again, 81 points. Again, the game with Madison on Friday. That both of their games are at home. They finish out against Cedar Rapids. Muskegon in fourth place with 80 points. Both of their games this weekend is with Chicago. With a home and home series with them. And then Green Bay in fifth place with 58 points, and Cedar Rapids in sixth place with 57 points. So Cedar Rapids, one of their games being Dubuque, Green Bay, one of their games being Madison. It'll be kind of interesting to see how the bottom of the playoff bracket shakes out here. So we got a little bit of a surprise on the game on Friday, and I believe I mentioned it in the interview. But as far as I know, I think this is only the second time in the past so many years that we've actually had a former player return. We had, of course, had Jaden Grant back for Game 3 of the finals a couple years ago.
I mean, at least that they've publicized.
Yeah. So yeah, Nathan Lewis was at the game on Friday wearing his outdoor Ohio State jersey, which was beautiful.
Oh, that was sick.
I want one of those.
Love that jersey. Dropped the puck before the game, hung out and watched the game, and everything else. And then after the game, we drug him off into another room. That seems to be how these interviews with Nathan Lewis goes, especially last year. But yeah, we were able to drag him off into the media room for a couple minutes. So this was our conversation with the returning Nathan Lewis. All right, so we're just kind of buried away here. I feel like this was the first time we interviewed back on a stairwell, but surprise, surprise, Nathan Lewis, current Ohio State Buckeye, here at the game on Friday night. Nate, welcome back to Youngstown.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be back.
First of all, congratulations on a great season with Ohio State. And not even your height, you really stood out on the ice. So if anything, it was very easy to find you when watching a game. Guys had a nice deep run there in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, how would you sum up your first college season?
I think it was an unbelievable season. I think you can't ask for anything more other than winning a couple of championships. But you go through adversity in college, and that's a part of the game, unfortunately. But you grow from it, you learn from it, and do better next year. So, is there like any Ohio State podcast you talked to? Have you been cheating on us since you left? I have not. Oh. No, just been waiting for this one. Oh, okay. Appreciate that. So, I mean, you got to watch the game tonight. I mean, obviously, this is not the result we expected. This is a very tough Waterloo team. You watching, especially some former teammates and everything like that. Like, how did you feel about tonight's game? Like, what did you see out there? It's good to see guys like, last year, first year in the league, and then this year, it's like, it's crazy to see the development, how much better they've been doing, and their growth throughout the 2 years. And it's nice to see your former team win in domination style, but it's Youngstown. It's a great city. I came to the rink this morning, seen all the guys, seen the locker room, just You miss it every day. It's a family here with the team, the fans, everyone that comes to support. I couldn't ask for anything more than a nice win when I came to see.
Well, hopefully we get a nice deep playoff run here. We'll get to see you back here again. But great to see you again. Thank you for coming back here to Youngstown. I think this is only the second time I can remember former player coming back in the past so many years. So good luck to you in Ohio State, and hopefully we'll be talking about you signing a pro contract here someday.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, bud.
I think in a way it's horrible to admit I didn't realize how much I had missed Nathan Lewis until I saw him again coming to the game on Friday. And then just thinking back with his injury last year, I probably spent more time talking to him than I have any other player because he was always hanging out up in the press booth. Not dressing a lot of those games. I think I talked to him more than I have any other player ever in that red suit, except for country night. Can't miss a 6'6" cowboy.
Oh, and something I got to see that nobody else got to was when we were interviewing him. Nate Lewis is a tall individual. I think he's grown since last year, but doing an interview in there, Sam didn't hold the microphone up any higher for him. So he was practically bent in half. And he was still taller than both of us.
Like Jordan's,
yeah.
or like JD Greenway talking to the Jackson twins.
That's exactly it.
It reminded me how much I don't like doing in-person interviews anymore. It's like my neck I can only look up for so long before my neck starts cramping, but you know what? For Nate, it's worth it. So yeah, great to see him back. Hopefully we'll get to see him and more.
Sam needs a boom mic.
Yeah, I need a step ladder or something. All right, so coming up in this episode, we will be previewing the final weekend of the regular season, a home-and-home series with the NTDP U17s. This week's edition of Phantom Files, our last player interview of the season with Phantoms captain Colson Hanrahan, and our next to last edition this season of Fan Q&A. So with that, we're going to step aside for a quick break. The weekend recap is coming up next with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
This is Voice of the Phantoms and friend of the show, Matt Lipsack, and you're listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast on the home of the Youngstown Phantoms, Western Reserve Radio. So this past weekend, the Phantoms, a 3-3, starting off with Waterloo coming to town on Friday. I seem to remember a while back, there was a couple games there we kind of needed Waterloo's help with something. They weren't willing to provide it, and I made the comment, I look forward to when you guys come back to Youngstown. I'd like to thank the Phantoms for backing me up on that one.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we had that on our proverbial bingo card.
So that works out to the last 2 times the Blackhawks have come to Youngstown, they've been outscored 16-4.
Yeah. That's a hell of a stat.
If you go back to the school day game last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And who could forget that game?
Yeah, but we've joked about it, but certainly coming into this weekend, looking at this game with Waterloo, 3rd place in the Western Conference, apparently except for the games being played in Youngstown, typically a tough game with the Blackhawks. If you would have told me before the game that this was how the game was going to end, I don't think I would have believed it. And that's not anything negative against the Phantoms for certain, but I thought Waterloo would have put up much more of a fight than they did.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one that they reflect on later on. I'm sure they would have liked to have done a lot better.
Now, this is one of those performances here that I think the Phantoms, they really played well. Their passing was on point, and their forecheck, when the Phantoms forechecks going, they have a lot of success, and their forecheck just put droves of pressure on Waterloo. Yeah, so I mentioned it before last time about wonder how difficult it is playing on Olympic size ice, half the season in an NHL size ice, the other half of the season. And that was a night and day game between the Phantoms and them the last game earlier in the year as opposed to this one.
Yeah, it kind of felt like by the time the first period was over in this game, Youngstown had just completely demoralized Waterloo.
Mm-hmm.
Second period, third period, they just had no fight to them. And, credit to Youngstown. At no point did you really feel like Youngstown was taking their foot off the gas. Just wave after wave after wave. They just kept coming after him. And Dan, like you said, just kind of all three phases of the game.
Yeah.
Youngstown just absolutely dominated. And like Coach Ward said after the game, probably one of the team's best performances of the season, just as far as a 60-minute game.
I wouldn't say Waterloo looked like a playoff game, but the game felt like a playoff actual game for the Phantoms. It was like they were tight. They were on point.
And then, second period there, we got to see Luke Santilli throw down.
Yeah.
Although I think Luke was just itching for a fight in this game.
He's been looking for one for a while. I think you're right.
He was... Yeah. I don't want to use the word instigating, especially in a negative light, but he was out there to irritate the hell out of someone in this game, and basically whoever was closest to him. I kind of feel like he was gunning for one in this game.
It's a delicate balancing act there. You don't want to give the other team momentum, anything to grasp onto, but at the same time, you want to get the fans engaged. I don't think he was wrong.
No, I think
it was a good, clean fight. So
I think about the penalties and the offset. I think this is probably the most even strength game we've seen played.
Mm-hmm.
There's some 4-on-4, there's some 5-on-5. We've talked all season long about how good the Phantoms are 5-on-5 and 4-on-4, and I think that this game there's no better example of that than this game right here.
Yeah. So Peter Cesar in this game picks up his first 3 goals as a Phantom. So I get to use one of my favorite phrases, the Natty Hattie. Picked up 3 in a row there. And then you have Melvin Strahl picking up the win in this game, tying one of Justin's favorites, Sean Romeo.
Yeah.
For most wins in a season, currently sitting at 31. So coming into the final weekend, I kind of feel like we'll probably see a goalie split this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'll be happy to see Strahl break Romeo's record there.
Yeah. So I imagine Strahl will get one game this weekend to attempt to set the Phantoms record. So moving on to Saturday with the Chicago Steel coming to town for 2 games. And like we said, this game didn't quite go the way we felt it might. Hats off to Chicago. They came ready to play. Youngstown picking up the 5-3 win in this game. And now for the second time this season, the Phantoms game-winning goal being an empty net goal. It seemed like such an odd thing the first time it happened this season. Now it's happened twice.
This game here, it was weird. The game started, I thought the Phantoms started out kind of slow. It almost, this is the Chicago's first game of the weekend. This is the Phantoms' second game of the weekend. But, Chicago, they were resting. Their scratch list was pretty vast, and they had some pretty big names on that scratch list. So we talked about last week, Chicago coming in, they're playing for pride. They're playing to be a spoiler. And I think they came in, there's a definite vastly big. What a word there. Wow. Bigly difference. There you go. In skill level between the two teams. But you know what? Chicago worked hard this weekend, and they made the Phantoms earn everything that they got.
Yeah.
And that's like you guys. I think that was the best performance I've seen Chicago play this year. A few times we've seen them, but even with that being said, the Phantoms it took every bit of grit that they had to eke out a win in this game, and it took everything, and they got it done. It wasn't pretty, but they got it done.
Yeah, Phantoms. And this would be the same thing on Sunday. Phantoms trailing twice in this game, able to come back and tie it. 3-game weekends. Your brain gets so cluttered about what happened on what night. Trying to remember what happened where, and wow. I will say, and it was right in front of us there at the beginning of the third period, that goal, the Sobieski to Budkowski goal.
Mm-hmm.
My head wasn't fast enough to go from circle to circle. Justin's camera was not fast enough to go from circle to circle.
No, it was not.
The absolute laser that Sobieski, from like the face-off dot put on Budkowski's stick on the other side of the net for that tap-in goal. I mean, holy God, was that that was a rocket of a pass.
It was, and it's a good thing that Matty had his stick on the ice before the pass was made. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got to it.
No.
In this game too is something I saw that was a funny thing. I've talked about sitting behind Wardo, so I get to see a lot of his mannerisms, and you could tell things are pretty tight. Mexico scored that empty net goal. I literally looked at him, and he talked to Godkins, and I could tell there was a sense of relief amongst them.
Mm-hmm.
And Chicago went right back down and scored, and I saw that relief immediately get wiped away. Immediately. And then, as luck
you should have seen us.
Yeah. And as luck would have it, they went right back down, and they got the 2-goal lead again. But there was no relief after that 2-goal lead that time, the second time around.
Oh God, what was that? About 16 seconds after Chicago got the game back to 4-3. Justin Kerr just doing the Lord's work down there below the goal line, creating the turnover that led to Ryan Rosinski's goal to put the Phantoms back up by 2.
How many goals have the Phantoms scored this year from work like that? Like the Justin Kerr, the Jamison slides.
Yeah.
So many goals.
Well, that was another thing. Youngstown kind of clamping down there at the end of the game, keeping the puck in the offensive zone, not giving Chicago another chance to pull the goaltender. All right. And finally, we had the game on Sunday. This was a 4-3 shootout loss for the Phantoms. This game snapping the Phantoms 6-game winning streak, but at least still picking up a point. So Chicago wanted to play spoiler this weekend. They ended the winning streak, but we still got a point out of it. Pretty much we're still in the position we wanted to be in coming out of this weekend. So nice try. Thanks for coming, but we're still where we're at. Thank God.
Yeah, it kind of took the margin of error away that the Phantoms would have had if they'd have won that game outright, got to 2 points. But I know the scoreboard is a loss. I think Luca Cloutier, for whatever the goalie's name is for Chicago, I thought he played a great game in net. That first goal that Chicago scored on that little rinky-dink flip into the net, just a bad luck bounce on Melvin Straw. I think to add salt into the wound, that was Noah LaPointe's first goal of the year, and he's been playing all year. He was snake bit. He was staring down the barrel of a 0 for a season, and he got a rinky-dink goal to get it in there. But I think all the things that we talked about that made the Phantoms successful throughout the year, the forecheck, that's something I think you could see as a 3-3 at the end of the year. These players are tired. They're probably playing hurt. They don't have much juice left as of right now, and it looked like it. And that was Chicago's second game of the weekend. You could tell there's a difference in freshness of legs between the two.
Yeah, you get the Phantoms tying goal in the third period. Jamison slides with the pass over to Jack Wilson. And it's something we've talked about so much this season is the scoring from the blue line, and Jack Wilson with just an absolute snipe from the left face-off circle. Beating Cloutier. And again, that's one of those goals that kind of happens right in front of us. What a shot. Especially when it was at an angle where the puck's going towards the net, but it's coming towards us at the same time. So we can see that angle and where the puck ends up beating the goaltender, but what a shot.
Again, maybe my camera caught that one. I'm not sure. As hard as that came in, that 60 frames a second will do it.
Did you hear how hard Wilson was hitting his stick to the ice, wanting that puck from slides? If he didn't pass on that puck, that stick was going to go in someone's chest or whatever. But
he had so much open room to wind that one up.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin, I had said to you, I need to go look up because I'm not sure I've seen this stat, but like as far as goals by defensemen in a season for the Phantoms, like after the game, I come home and I start looking this stuff up. Come to find out, the Phantoms have set the record this year for goals by defensemen in a season. Currently at 39 with 2 games to go.
I'm not surprised.
Beating the previous best, which was 36 goals, and that was set by the 15-16 roster. In comparison, last season, the Phantoms had 35, so the third most in team history. The Clark Cup team had 22.
Those are stats about blue line goals that make everybody happy, but none of us are as happy as Justin is at that stat.
Yeah.
I really think you need that. Obviously the Clark Cup team is an anomaly on that.
So yeah, Phantoms get 5 of 6 points on the weekend. Like we said, still in the driver's seat. Currently, for the first time in this show's history, first place in the Eastern Conference. All right, so that will do it for the weekend recap. We're going to take a quick break. This week's edition of Phantom Files with Phantoms defenseman and team captain Colson Hanrahan is coming up next with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Ina's Pierogi House is your home for the area's best variety of pierogies. Daily specials include the Polish platter, the Hungarian platter, stuffed cabbage, and halushki. Having a last-minute get-together? Lena's has you covered with a wide variety of frozen take-home pierogies and dumplings. Go to Facebook at Lena's Pierogi House to see the weekly lineup of available flavors for dine-in or carry-out. Catch the best at Lena's Monday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 20 North Main Street in Hubbard, or call 234-254-8532.
We're back with the Dump and Chase podcast on the home of Phantoms Hockey, Western Reserve Radio. So for this week's edition of Phantom Files, we welcome back to the show the guy who before this season was named the 16th captain in Phantoms history. Under his leadership, the Phantoms set the record for most home wins in a season and most goals scored by the defense in a season. When asked a few months ago about the thought of having to fight this guy, one of his teammates remarked, "No, he's crazy." He is also the first player in our podcast history to crash someone else's interview. We are, of course, talking about UMass commit and the pride of Longmeadow, Massachusetts, Colson Hanrahan. Hanny, welcome back, bud.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me.
So, I mean, your story in Youngstown isn't finished yet, but, you started last season with the PAL Islanders. If someone would have told you then this is the position you would currently be in, would you believe them?
Absolutely not. If I'm going to be completely honest, I'd say they're crazy.
The one thing about this season that kind of strikes me as kind of odd is just the consistency this season of you guys kind of flying under the radar. I mean, all season long, the worst losing streak you guys have had is 3 games. And that was back in December. And that's basically matches what Muskegon and Dubuque have done this season. You guys haven't lost 2 games in a row since the beginning of January. And that's the only team in the USHL that's done that. Just what is it about this team this year? I mean, you guys, right now, coming into the final weekend, you guys are first in the Eastern Conference. Just what is it about what is it about this team that you guys have just kind of, I don't want to say coasted by, but just haven't been noticed like the other teams are when you guys are doing the same, if not better than the other teams?
Yeah, every guy is just like super easy at just flipping the page, kind of like we lose a game, they're not like thinking about it. It's just on to the next. And that's really what it is just staying fresh. Yeah, we'll lose some games. We get that, but it's kind of just going on to the next game and hoping for a win.
Every defenseman we've talked to this season, in some way, shape, or form, they bring up Scott Gordon. What has been your experience with Flash this year? And what do you see, kind of the benefits of playing for somebody like that, going forward in your career?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, obviously, he's been in the NHL, so like under that, everything he says, is true since he's been through it. So it's just unbelievable. And it's crazy how much the guys respect him. It's awesome.
So, we're down to the final stretch. It's pretty clear seems to be a pretty high level of confidence amongst the defense, and with the goaltending, almost any night we can pull out a win, regardless how the other team plays. What is the confidence level here?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, no one's cocky about it. We have a role that we play like every night. And if we play to that standard, then we know we're coming out with a win.
What has it been like playing when you have, you've had Melvin Strahl behind you this season, and now, we had talked about Owen Leapak kind of getting a little bit of time off as far as, game time and things like that, getting a chance to work on things. And now looking at this surge that he's had, here towards the end of the season. What is it like for you guys when you have 2 guys behind you like that playing at the level they're playing at right now?
Yeah, it's unbelievable knowing that, everyone makes mistakes, but if you make a few, like they have our back, and it's huge, obviously, with RD, like being confident and playing our game, that if we mess up here and there, like those guys will bail us out.
Now, I had mentioned in the intro to this, you guys ended up setting the record this season, and you still have 2 games to go, set the record this season for most goals in a season by Phantoms defensemen. You're currently sitting at 39 this year. Where do you, especially for you, where do you kind of find that split between being a defenseman and then, getting those opportunities to, get up on the rush or maybe, move up in the zone, and get a little in. We may have referred to you as Colson McDavid here a few times over the past month or so.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but No, Coach Gordon and obviously Wardo, they let us play so free and loose that they trust our instinct of when to jump up and when it's time to stay back. So just them letting us play free has led us to that.
Who would amongst the defensemen, who would you say has the best shot?
Santilli has a rip slap shot, but I'd say like Ozzy's got a like really good wrist shot.
I know that one Jack scored over the weekend. Holy God!
Yeah, he has a rip too.
That was an absolute snipe on that.
Yeah,
you've buried a few pretty ones.
Yeah, it's nothing hard, but just good placement, I guess.
Yeah, you're allowed to say yourself.
Yeah, no, it's not me for sure. I can tell you that.
That's where that whole Colson McDavid thing comes in. We keep bringing up. And, we talked about, again, you guys setting the record for most wins at the Cavelli Center in a season this year. I mean, we talk about all the time how big home ice advantage is. We talk to coaches, we talk to all these different people about the crowd and everything else. I mean, you're actually one of the guys on the ice. The number of butts in the seats, the amount of noise, as somebody on the ice, what is that doing for you? And I mean, and how important is that, especially going forward, getting into the playoffs here?
Yeah, I think it goes a long way, further than some of the fans might think. But like, if there's a hit and they start going crazy, like our bench kind of gets up a little more, and then when we score, like they're going nuts. It's just awesome.
I guess go to the flip side of that. What's it like when you're out there and everything's kind of quiet?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we should be able to stay up on the bench and everything, but it kind of just drags us down a little bit. But
we apologize.
So when you're out there and you take a high stick or a trip and there's no arm goes up and you hear the fans start giving it to the refs, does that help?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it helps, but it's definitely awesome, like that the fans are so into the game and care so much that they're obviously looking for a call for us. So
I remember going back to like the first interview we did with you and, just coming up and you were talking about in the NCDC, you were more of an offensive defenseman. You come over to the Phantoms, you start playing a more physical game. You've made yourself as a reputation as someone who will drop the gloves if need be. Do you have a favorite fight?
Favorite fight? Fargo last year was pretty fun. Against Zadar, who's now on our team. He's one of my good buddies, but I don't know. I enjoyed that one because he was obviously trying to go a guy on our team and then just stepping in.
That's something you had to clear with him when he was coming over here. Did you like reach out to him right away? And
yeah, I reached out. Took him out to lunch. So just cleared it pretty quick.
You wearing that C on your sweater. There's many roles that come with that. One of those roles is being like the rules interpreter of the officials on the ice. And we all know, we've all seen those rules are pretty interestingly interpreted by them.
Yeah.
And I think you're also the only captain I see jumping out there as fast as they are. How do those conversations go with them over there?
Yeah. So it kind of depends. Sometimes it gets pretty ugly. Got to know them pretty well, most of the refs now. So, I mean, I have a close relationship with some of them and some of them don't really like to talk to me.
It's always fun when something's going on, you are the first person off the bench. You skate over there right away. It's like it looks like you're like in your element every single time. You got to do that.
No, I love getting over there and just seeing what they're talking about. Especially sometimes they'll flip the switch on me and get pretty upset, but I find it kind of funny.
Something else that's just started coming in the arena. There's like some fat heads that are in the arena. I'm sure you see them in the game.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How's that? How's it feel? Is it like surreal, or what's your take on it?
Yeah, at first I thought it was a little creepy, but no, I was like, I double looked it. I was like, is that really me there? And saw that. And then I saw Cal. I saw a few other guys. I was like, all right, like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sweet. I had that happen to me one time at a game where it was someone else's. It was like a mom made that when I was coaching high school soccer. And as we lost a couple games, that kind of went away after that. But superstitions about hockey. I have a reason I'm asking about this. Do you have anything that you do like when you wear in a game, or do you do something every day that you do?
Yeah, I actually used to be really superstitious, but then I realized I was kind of like playing a little too tight. So I loosened up, but just take a nap before every game. My billets make food, pasta and chicken. So mostly just that. I do a few things before. started to juggle just randomly. just gives me something to do. So I started doing that. But for the most part, I don't have anything like crazy.
The reason I'm asking you this is because anybody saw you walk into the concourse Sunday after the game. They called you like hockey pant shells or something like that.
Yeah.
See your leopard print underwear on there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's also, I forgot to throw that in. I wear those. A lot of people have been telling me to throw them away, but
that makes you want to wear them more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I got to mention that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. My mom gets pretty upset. She tells me to throw shorts on, but
you know how moms are with clean underwear. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They're clean.
All right. So before we let you out of here, we're going to have you put your salesman hat on. You know, we got this game coming up Saturday. We got playoffs coming up after that. Can you want to give a little bit of a sell job to fans listening in, maybe ones that listen in, don't come to a lot of these games, get people to the Covelli Center?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been to a regular game, you can, obviously they're pretty sweet, but playoff hockey, especially this team, I mean, we probably got the grittiest team we've had in a while, so it's going to be a hard game. And I mean, we obviously have a lot of depth, so we're going to be ready to go here.
All right. So one final thing. Is there anything you'd like to throw out there? Any friends or family might be listening in?
Yeah, I'll shout out my mom. She got mad last time. I forgot to shout her out.
Oh, man.
I shouted out my aunt, but not my mom, so she didn't really like that one. But
you don't forget your mom in these situations, dude.
No. Yeah, it was a terrible look, but
like life lesson learned, right?
Yep.
What's
I told her I'll get it back.
What's your mom's name?
Amy.
Amy, how you doing?
Yeah, she loves listening to these. So does my billet dad, Paul. Shout out, Paul.
Well, we'll smarten him up here sooner or later with this stuff. But all right, Colson, thank you so much. I believe this is the fourth time you've been on the show now, so you're definitely you've passed the standard for friend of the show status. So congratulations there.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, always fun having you on. Let's finish this out the right way.
Yeah, we all know what our goal is, and we're gonna do it down the stretch here. So
we keep telling everybody, trophies are fun. We like them around here.
Yeah, sure.
All righty. So we have been talking to Phantoms defenseman and team captain Colson Hanrahan. So we're going to step aside for a short break. The weekend preview and fan Q&A is coming up next with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
This is Voice of the Phantoms and friend of the show, Matt Lipsack, and you're listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
This is the Dump and Chase podcast on the broadcast home of the Youngstown Phantoms, Western Reserve Radio. So this coming weekend, the final weekend of the regular season, I've said it 3 times in this episode, and I still can't believe it.
Because you don't want to believe it.
and then I look at the top of the run sheet and I see episode 26, and it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So this weekend, the Phantoms, a home and home series, the more traditional one than we had last year, where we ended up having to swap things around and go up to finish the regular season on the road in Plymouth as opposed to the other way around. We're back to normal this season.
Luckily, the concert's on Friday this year, not Saturday.
Yeah.
At Covelli.
So Friday, the game will be up in Plymouth. Saturday, we will be back down in Youngstown for the regular season finale. So far this season, Youngstown 3-0 against the U17s. Youngstown has outscored them 21-11 in those 3 games. These teams last played on New Year's Eve, with Youngstown picking up a 10-2 win. So the NTDP this year, their USHL record, they are coming in with a record of 27-1-1, giving them 10 points of the NTDP's 50 overall this season. Team USA overall, 7th place in the Eastern Conference. Of course, they have been eliminated from playoff contention. The NTDP, which in their last 10 games, which is basically a third of their season, on their last 10 games, they have a record of 2-8. And I will point out those 2 wins were against Omaha. So in the last 10 games, they are averaging 3 goals per game. They are giving up 6 goals per game. In the last 10, the power play coming in at 13%, the penalty kill at 66.7%. So in comparison, Youngstown, and again, I love we get to say this, coming in with a record of 40-18-0-2. That gives them 82 points and first place in the Eastern Conference. I will point, was it Friday night or Saturday night? Youngstown started the night in fourth place, and then over the course of 90 minutes, went from fourth place to first place to second place to third place.
That was Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah. And then Sunday, by default of that game in hand that we made up, are now in first place.
So in a span of 90 minutes, the Phantoms occupied all four top seeds in the Eastern Conference at some point or another. Over the last 10 games, Youngstown with a record of 7-2-0-1. Over their last 10, they are averaging 4 goals per game. They are giving up 1.8 goals per game. The power play over the last 10, 19%. The penalty kill at 87.5%. So, Dan, what have you got for this awesome powerhouse of NTDP awesomeness?
Yeah, the NTDP as a whole. Thanks for setting it up that way, Sam. The NTDP as a whole, they're not a deep team. They have talent for sure. They're led by JP Hurlbert. He's actually leading the entire 17s and 18s in points this year. Lucas Zajak's good. And one question I do have is, Mikey Burchild. He's a 2008 birth year. Should be on the 17s. He got moved up to the 18s around Christmas time. Are they going to send him back down to the 17s to finish out the year? Or is he going to go play with the 18s at the whatever tournament they're going to go flaunt themselves in? So, the goalies in this for this team, 6 goals on a game on average is insane. So they're a little bit leaky, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Like you said, Justin, can't take anything for granted. But if the fans come out and play their game, they should come out victorious in this.
So the game on Friday, again, taking place up in Plymouth. I understand there's a bit of a Phantoms caravan going up to Plymouth for the game on Friday. So safe travels to all of you. Hope you have fun up there. That will be a 7:05 puck drop. The game will be available on USA Hockey TV with, as always, what we consider the bright spot for the NTD program with voice of the NTDP, Pete Krupski, on the call. Saturday, back at the Cavelli Center for the season finale. This is a 6:05 puck drop. Tickets are available for this game. You can call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK. That is 330-747-7825. And if you can't make it to the game, of course, the video stream is available on Flow Sports, and the audio stream is available on Western Reserve Radio with a friend of the show and voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack, on the call. So with that, it is time. This will be the next to last segment of the Fan Q&A this season. So if you're listening to this now and you just haven't got that question in yet, next week it will be your last chance to get them in for this year. So kicking it off, the question is, Dubuque, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, and Waterloo all played 30 cross-conference games this season. Is it time for the league to look at realignment and a more balanced schedule? How would you do realignment? First, I will say, whoever asked this question, that this is, from a statistical standpoint, this is a question after my own heart. This is a little bit of research here. This is after my own heart. So I appreciate the effort you put into that. The problem is all 4 of these teams you mentioned are in Iowa. 5 teams.
The problem is Iowa.
Yeah, 5 teams overall in Iowa. Again, who would ever have guessed that Iowa would be such a hotbed for junior hockey?
So the Cowbell Cup little in-season thing they do.
Yeah. So it's the 4 teams you mentioned are in Iowa. And the thing you have to keep in mind, being where Youngstown is located as far as the rest of the teams in this league, because we are so far east compared to everyone else, our perspective is a little different than everyone else's. Youngstown's short trip is to Plymouth, and you're still talking, 3.5 hours, something like that?
In a bus, yeah. I could do it a little bit quicker.
Legally? Justin pleads the 5th.
Pushing it.
Yeah. You're talking about, these teams in Iowa, these teams in Nebraska, very short trips. Some cases you're only talking an hour, a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours.
Fargo's got a little bit rough. But yeah, when you're talking Nebraska, Iowa, even Chicago, Green Bay, Madison aren't so bad.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to, Youngstown losing, or not Youngstown, but the Eastern Conference losing the Indiana Ice years ago, losing the Bloomington Thunder / Central Illinois Flying Snoopies. That kind of shook up the map a little. Some changes had to be made. But at the end of the day, it's just a lot of teams in the West are so bunched together that there really isn't a good way to split things up in a way that would kind of even everything out. I mean, especially for Youngstown, the travel is going to be there no matter what, whether it's Eastern or Western Conference. The travel is going to be there no matter what.
And I mean, I know Cedar Rapids and Dubuque being put into the Eastern Conference is a little bit of a, stress point, but not so much as opposed to, what we have to do sometimes. What's the bus trip from Youngstown to Fargo?
22 hours, I think I was told.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an outlier. Now you can fly and you only do it once or twice a year.
But even then, at the same time, even though flying is now an option, there's still a major cost to that. And it appears a lot of teams have stayed away from it.
That is expensive.
But again, I really appreciate the research that went into that question. Thank you for that. So the next question is, why don't the same officials stay for an entire series instead of changing them out every game? It doesn't seem efficient. I'll say, and I'm kind of glad I forgot to bring it up last week because I can use it here. A lot of these officials are not USHL exclusive. A lot of these officials do work in other leagues. And the example I will bring up is Luke Stork, who, everybody, some of the older heads remember as a former Phantom back in the day. Luke Stork is a USHL referee. He is also a linesman in the American Hockey League. And I learned this because the Cleveland Monsters game I went to last weekend, the game on Saturday, Luke Stork was one of the linesmen in that game. And then come to the game on Friday in Youngstown, and Luke Stork is the referee. So, I mean, it's not, these guys aren't going exclusively by a USHL scheduling system. There's also, other leagues that they work for. You could have referees that are USHL, NOL, ECHL, AHL. So it's not USHL, setting their schedule. You're going to go here for the entire weekend. These guys are all over the place.
Well, and I know one game this weekend, we had Jonathan Satarski, who I know does games in the AHL.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've probably been booing him for more than a decade. I know I've been booing him for more than a decade.
Yeah. Besides that, too, what Sam brought up was a very good point. I also think the team, the league wants to have different eyes on each game as well. I know each referee gets browbeat every single game from the fans and the coaches and the players every game. So I don't want to say they're going to have bias from time to time, but I know there is a reason of that, keeping fresh eyes on it. And I know that does also bring a litmus of problems too. When we look at the games Friday, where the game was called very tight and there wasn't very many penalties called at all. And then the next couple of games, there are a lot of penalties. So that does add a little bit extra to the game where you have to, kind of quantify that maybe. But I think what Sam said is right. And I think the league also wants to keep fresh eyes and no bias from game to game in there.
All right, so the next question comes from Jerry, that is spelled Gerry. Watching the Waterloo game on Friday night, I finally understood Dan's comments about the wedge defense the Phantoms instill from time to time. Thank you for pointing that out. Would you guys ever consider talking about the rest of the league a little during a segment? Would love to hear what you guys have to say on other teams and players. So, Dan, little tire pumping there for you.
Yeah, I promise. I read that and immediately thought, these guys probably think I wrote that in myself. I'll start first with this one. This is, I can't believe I walked away from high school soccer and I fell in love with, junior hockey. I can't believe how much I fell in love with it. And I do a lot of research, just like Sam and Justin do. And is it something I would love to do? I would love to talk junior hockey and talk about other teams. Do I have the time to do that? Probably not, but I would still love to do it though if I could.
Yeah, I want to say that we've tried to do this in the past. I think it's a lot more accessible now with Flow Hockey, but again, time.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. And even then, I think doing a segment where we talk about the rest of the league, I think just doing it in a segment would be a trick.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that would almost have to be its own show. Like we've said many times before, and like you guys said, it's just a matter of time, and we wrap up so much time into this one, just covering one team.
I mean, we could run down numbers, but I mean, that doesn't matter for anything, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the time to be able to sit and watch all these other games and, break things down and everything else. And I feel like it would just be reciting stats from the USHL website when it was all said and done. And that doesn't really do a service to anyone. I mean, podcasting is not as hard as it used to be to get into. I mean, anybody can jump in and do it. I mean, it's a good idea. I just think we would be the wrong people to ask to do it. All right, so the final question comes from Jessica, and yes, it is the one we're thinking of. She asks, what is your most memorable post-game interview experience with Coach Ward?
I'm going to go out on a limb here. There was one where he used the phrase, shit the bed, which resonated, I think, with the fans at the time. I guess the other one would be the one where he wasn't there, where he got hit in the head with the puck, and we were all there in the post-game like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. And we got Gotkin.
Yeah, and then Brandon Gotkin just comes walking in smiling.
Joking.
Got brought in out of the bullpen to fill in.
He gave the soundbite of, thank goodness that wasn't a bullet.
Which in Youngstown, we understand.
Yeah, I haven't been around as much as you two, so the draw from is not as big as your guys's, but for me, it was the first one I was ever going to go do that we ended up not doing, to be honest. And that was the second game at the Fall Classic last year. We waited around for a long time for him to come out after two pretty poor performances from the team. We were waiting. And then as soon as we decided to walk away, we packed everything up. He came out of there. And I remember he said, what, you guys don't want to do this interview? And we're like, no, we're heading out. And the face of disgust.
I texted him later and apologized for that, because you remember that's when I was dealing with the first kidney stone and I had to leave.
Yeah, I felt really bad. That was my first interaction with him.
We were waiting, I was in 10 kinds of pain. I needed to leave that place and get home. And when I decided to walk away is when he came out.
It couldn't have happened at a worse timing. We waited for a long time and we knew it wasn't going to be pleasant anyways, but we still wanted to do it.
And just sitting there in that hallway.
Yeah, we got 20 yards away. We heard that door open and then he yelled.
Because I texted him later that night and apologized and explained why I had to leave. I don't know about you guys, but
you had the equipment, Sam.
I don't know what excuse you guys use, but I had a 6mm excuse to get out of that place as quickly as I could, because I was in 10 kinds of pain there.
It wasn't that convenient.
Yeah. I honestly, I think back to two moments for me, very early on, and we joke about it now. We've talked about it on the show before when we've had Ryan Ward on the show, how I was convinced that in the beginning he hated me. He has to, at that point in time, Matt was a team employee. He had to deal with Matt. I was just the other guy that was there. And I kept telling Matt, and I kept telling, Matt Lipsack, I'm like, I don't think he likes me. I don't think he likes me. And Matt's like, oh, you're fine. And then we did the one post game, and I think I asked him about Andrew Centrilla. And again, this was very early on. The team wasn't doing well. Ward was, self-admittedly, it was kind of a rough time for him. He thought he was going to be fired, a month into the season. And I had asked a question about Andrew Centrilla, and he just looked dead at me and went, yeah, he's a veteran. He's doing what he's supposed to. And then moved on to the next question. And the interview was over. He walked away, and I just looked at Matt, and I'm like, oh my God, he hates me. Looking back on it now, it's hilarious, but yeah, that's not how I felt about it back at the time, back then in that time. The other one would have to be when we had the last season when the backdrop had broken. And it's Matt Lipsack has talked about, when we had Matt and Ryan together, the main camp episode, Matt had said, Ryan is a professional, they both understand they have a job to do in there. Ryan can be very intense after a game, win or loss can be very intense after a game. He's still kind of got that adrenaline going. So anytime we can make him break in that room is just gold for us. And he can't, and because he threw a fit the night before because the backdrop was broken. He didn't like just standing up against a cinder block wall. So I had said we should just get a sign and just just write on the sign, head coach Ryan Ward, and hang it on the wall. And then it was actually one of the Phantoms off ice officials, Tyler Beck, who was the one who actually wrote it on the sign and then hung it up on the wall. And Ryan just came in with that like 100-yard stare that he has when he comes into the room, and then walked over, saw the sign, and just immediately broke. And then you go back and listen, and it's like you go back and listen to that in a post-game interview, and it's like he's trying to be serious. You can hear all of us giggling in the background. But yeah, it's just anytime we can get him to break in that room, it's gold for us. All right. So as always, thank you everyone for getting your questions in. Again, next week is the last time for the segment this season. So, once the playoffs start, there will be some format changes. We have to move a lot quicker to get these episodes out than during the season. So again, make sure if you just haven't got that question in yet, make sure you get it in before next week. Assuming we don't end up as the 3rd or 4th seed. If something goes horribly wrong and that happens, then this will be it. So that will just about do it for this episode. We're going to gather up what wits we have left, and when we come back, we'll wrap this all up and look ahead to next week. So keep it here one more time with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Someone's got to set the tone out there, boys. Someone's got to set it.
The station that sets the tone for Youngstown Phantoms hockey is Western Reserve Radio. WRDV, The Scourge.
We're back, and that will do it for this edition of the Dump and Chase podcast. A massive thanks to Phantoms team captain Colson Hanrahan for making his now 4th appearance on the show. And to all of our awesome listeners who keep coming back for more, no matter how bad we make these episodes.
And thank you, Sam, for remembering that we actually have the final segment. I guess I'm not the only one who forgets this.
What would you guys do without me?
Yeah, Dan, thanks. Because I'm sitting here like deer in the headlights.
I almost pulled a Justin here. I somehow got it in my head we were done. I started closing everything out and was saying goodbye, and we still had a segment to go.
Yeah, you literally said, "All right, guys, I'll see you later." Like, what? Halt the presses.
Fortunately for him, he didn't actually click out of the Zoom meeting and leave the room.
Well, see, that's the difference between Justin doing it and me doing it. Because if I leave the meeting, there is no segment 5.
It could have been the second best Seg 5 this year, because nothing's going to top that other one from 2 weeks ago. So a drop in Seg 5.
I would have closed the meeting out. I would have had to start it all back up again.
Yeah.
And by that time, I'm gone.
Yeah. Then it's me and Dan again doing.
Yeah.
Finishing out this show on our own.
In which case, you'll just blame me again.
Yeah.
He did blame you, Justin. Because you said...
I did blame you. You gave one of your...
He's probably not wrong.
You gave one of your I'm leaving the meeting segment or statements, and my brain went, oh, we're done.
No, what I meant was this was going to be a,
Justin, we don't know what you mean anymore when you say you got to go, or whatever you're saying. We don't know what you mean anymore.
I said this was a discussion for another time, or I don't wish to discuss this tonight because it's an off-topic thing.
You would think after 26 episodes we'd be hitting on all cylinders at this point. No, not even close.
Still room for improvements when I'm here.
So if you're ever listening to this show and there is no final segment, that's because I was the one that left the meeting.
And we've got to get our shit together before the playoffs, man.
All right. So on next week's show, we will be recapping the end of the regular season with the U17s and previewing the playoffs. And finally, after all this clustering at the top and the clustering of the 5 and 6 seeds, just how everything finally shook out. So you can catch the show every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Western Reserve Radio. You can also catch this show in its podcast format on Apple, Spotify, or however you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can find us on social media on Facebook and Instagram. So, gentlemen, before we get out of here, any final thoughts?
I guess just the standard. Last game coming up Saturday, put your ass in a seat.
All right. So, as always, hockey is a sport played on ice with sticks and a puck, and this podcast is a thing you just listen to. See ya.
You guys really do share the same brain sometimes. It is pretty crazy.
We've been ignoring it for 6 years, Justin. I think it's time we just come to terms with it.
No. Still in denial.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem Sports Talk is on the iMedia One Network, Western Reserve Radio, Western Reserve Radio 2, and City View Sportscast.
I think the Giants at plus 350 when it comes to Shedeur are still a good bet.
Make it rain with Adam Shine. Weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Join Matt Brown and Mike Somich on Ready, Set, Bet as they get you ready to make your bets for all the weekend games.
We're going to be at the end of this thing with money guns, or I'm just going to be like, begging people for change out on Fremont Street.
It feels like the Twins and the Guardians have higher floors but lower ceilings.
Don't miss out on crucial advice for live betting once the game starts, as well as looking ahead to the upcoming action. Tune in to Ready, Set, Bet, weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
Always follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in here, day one of the Masters. This is not going well right now on 15 for Rory McIlroy. The way it looks, I believe he's going to drop at least one shot here, maybe two. He's 4 under currently, 3 back of Justin Rose, who's in the clubhouse with a 65 today. Tony Rizzo, ESPN Cleveland, bottom of the hour. What are the Browns going to do at number 2 overall in the draft? Here, great discussion coming up. Anthony Curtis, Mr. Las Vegas advisor, kind enough to join us in studio on a Thursday here at Circa.
Yeah.
How are you, my friend? Good to see you again.
Thank you. I'm good.